Hello, and again, welcome to Bit Depth. I'm Santiago Ramones. Across from me is...
I'm Alex Henry.
How do we know each other?
We go to school together. We've
Yeah.
had a couple classes together.
Yeah, we do songwriting together.
Yeah.
We never got to write a song together,
No, we
and
never
I
got- Yeah, we never
I
got
kind of
grouped
wanted
together.
to too, because I think I remember one time. I don't know why this sticks out in my mind. I remember one time, we were all just sitting around with waiting waiting for Dr. Pants to go around and
Mm-hmm.
hear songs, and I played the starting notes of a Modest Mouse song, and you looked over at me. I was like, I see you. And I was like, okay, I want to write a song with him. But then you never.
Yeah, we never got grouped together. That was the thing. He always grouped the people who could sing but not play an instrument with the people who could play an instrument.
Right.
So I always got grouped. I always got stuck with
Yeah.
just a singer because I always just wrote all the piano stuff. So
Yeah.
it didn't matter to me. So I was like, whatever, whoever I'm with, that's cool. Because I
Yeah.
think at that class there was 12 of us or something like that. So he just kept recycling the groups because our class wasn't that big.
Right. And I got partnered with two of the same people.
Yeah, I think I did too. I got two same partners. We wrote two different songs together. I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. But
Sure. Yeah.
because we already knew how to work together.
Yeah.
It worked that way.
All right. So, my actual first question. What do you do? Who are you?
I'm a drummer. So I play drums in the band Packing for Pluto, which
Just had you on?
Yep, just had us on last episode. So that's really what I do. But I'm going to school for drum performance and doing a minor in music production. So
Okay.
I really just wanted to learn the basics of music production, just because I was always interested how drums were recorded and everything like that, and how you capture sounds like that. So I always wanted to be hey, I want to get the gist of that and the knowledge of that. So it's hey, I know how to do this. So if I need to, I can do it on my own because I already know enough about it. So that was one of the reasons I always got into music production. Because I was like, well, that'd be kind of cool to just at least know that, because that'd be good knowledge to have. I feel like.
Yeah. Drums are kind of probably the hardest part of the recording process.
Right, yeah. That's what I like, how complex it is, yeah.
Because you literally have to set up the most for drums.
Yeah, most mics, yeah. Especially, you can do, the Glenn Johns, where it's just, a kick and just two,
right.
two overheads, and that's cool, and you can capture, that old rock and roll sound, but I like going crazy, you mic everything.
Right.
So, you always mic the kick, mic two snare. I have another snare, so I mic, so it's two. So it's four mics on two snares, and then I have three rack toms, so you always rack those. And then we'll do 3 or 4 overheads to capture all the cymbals I have. So it's and a room mic, if we're on.
Sure.
If we're down here at ACM on the second floor, we
right.
can put a couple of room mics down there. But that's always good. Just it's okay, so we have 14 mics? Cool.
Right.
And then drum editing sucks, and it's that falls onto me.
Yeah.
Since it's well, I guess I'll do all the cleaning up and stuff. So that's always a fun project, just sitting on my couch, just taking 4 hours, edit drums.
Yeah. What's been kind of the more interesting aspect of learning production and being on the other side of the kit and hearing and recording?
From an engineer's point of view?
Yeah.
Okay, so if I'm recording myself or someone else, is that what you're...
Yeah.
I guess, when I'm in the studio and it's with me and Griff, who he and I work really well together, I always, he's running the controls, obviously, because I can't man the controls when I'm playing the drums. But it's always nice to, I just like the studio aspect, because it's really cool to hear, what you created. And hear the song broken down. It's oh, okay, that's cool. I can actually hear the parts and hear kind of like the art to it. And it's, I don't know, that's what I kind of really enjoy, the studio aspect of just I like respecting how that's just the art of the song that you really don't hear
Yeah.
when it's all together. Because like when you hear it constructed, like deconstructed, you're like, wow, that's really cool.
Mm.
But I think it's really hard for me, engineering wise, like another drummer, because like I know how I would play it,
Yeah.
and I can't tell him like, hey, do this, because then I'm like, oh, that's not.
Right.
That's not respectable, and that's like, and that guy's like, who are you anyway to tell me that? So it's always just kind of like, not like nails on a chalkboard. It was just kind of like I have to bite my tongue because I'm like, okay, well, just think of like positive things to say, because like sometimes I could be like, oh, that was terrible, but like just say like something like, hey, next time, try not to like hit so hard, like we're trying to, not be so aggressive or something, like try to give like constructive criticism. But I feel like that's always the toughest recording another drummer, because you feel like you know how you would play it, so you're like trying to like overcorrect. But that's like the hardest issue. Other than that, it's cool like just being able to. I was working with this guy with a studio project last semester, and he had this first time he's ever been in the studio. And so it was like, we had to work like, hey, because he wanted to stand and play acoustic guitar. And so we're like, okay, if you wanted to stand up, let's put the mics, and, we put the two mics set up for acoustic guitar, and like, all right, you're going to have to stand right here the entire time. Because he kept like turning around and like moving. And it's like, no, hey man, if you're going to stand up, you got to stand right in the mics and stand right here. And he didn't really understand the concept behind that.
That's why I just DI'd.
Yeah, and that's what we ended up doing. We're like, all right, so and then he's like, well, I want to sing too, and we're like, okay, well, you're not going to sing and play guitar at the same time, because we're not going to do that. Like, we're not going to record that way. So I was like, how about we just DI you, and you can sing all you want to while you record guitar, because it won't come through the DI.
Right,
and he's like, okay, that sounds good to me. I was like, all right, cool.
I think I probably asked you this on the last one, but how long have you been playing drums?
Since I was 3 years old.
Jeez.
Yeah, I was just always banging on stuff, and so my parents bought me like one of those first act drum sets, and I had someone show me to do the cross hand on like how to play cross hand on the hi-hats. So you're playing with the right hand on the hi-hat and the left hand on the snare. And I was like, okay. And that's the only thing he showed me. The rest of it I was just self-taught.
Nice.
I just heard stuff, and I was like, okay, that's cool. And I would watch videos, especially like when YouTube came around. I would watch, and when I got into metal music, I would watch like all the drummers and stuff like that. Because then like once I would hear it and then see them play, I was like, oh, that's how you do it. And so that was kind of the way I learned that way. It's just by ear and just watching.
What is Baby's first beat?
Oh, like the first song I played is like, man, I think I played. The first song I ever played was "Spooky." Man, I think it's a one-hit wonder from the '70s. But it's like the chorus is like something like in love with like this spooky girl like you. And so, but it was like the first song I ever played because my dad plays keys and stuff, and so he played that song on the keys, and I just threw a backbeat behind it.
Nice.
I think I was like 4 years old at that time.
Cool. And then, I'll keep going on drums. What has been the hurdles that as you get better at drums, like there's one thing that you're like, gosh, I can't. What are the hurdles as you progress as a drummer that keep you?
Big thing for me, like I mentioned that on when you had the band on last episode, how I'm a metalhead. So like as far as like drumming, I've always been especially like when I actually was like, hey, this is something I would love to like. This is like something I would want to do for my career and like want to do this was metal drumming because like those guys have fun and it looks so complex and hard and it is because it's one of the hardest genres to play musically because it has a bad rep because it's like, oh, they scream, you can't understand. It's like but besides that, listen to like the musicianship, like what they play is incredible. Like you have to be really, it's like that and jazz. It's just you have to be a really incredible musician to play stuff like that. And so far as me, like drum wise, like double kick has always been like once I started using like a double pedal, that's always been not a hurdle, but it's just something you have to build up muscle memory to do, like a lot of like fast speed stuff because those are fine muscles in your legs that have to like to be able to control the pedals that fast. You have to learn, and so you can't just be like, all right, I'm gonna go 225 right off the bat. Like, no, that's not possible because you have no idea how to even make strokes. But as far like stuff like especially when I got to ACM, there's stuff like as far as like someone be like, hey, do this, and like tell you, it's like, oh, I gotta think about that, like thinking in time. It's like, because like to me, like when you're playing, like you get the count and you're playing, I'm not counting like 1, 2, 3. I'm not thinking that. I'm just like playing, like feeling the rhythm and stuff like that. So I'm not like counting in my head over and over. It's like you got to feel. It's like it comes on the end of the 3, and you're like, okay, I got to really think about this one. Like, so it's just kind of like more thinking about. All right, well, there's like hits and stuff now that you're not used to. Like, not used to playing, but it's just something that you're not used to doing. And so it's something that you're kind of like hesitant with. And so I've run into something with like, give me this on like a 3, and I'm like, let me listen to it. And they're like, well, you got to do it like that fast. I'm like, okay, well, I'm more of an audio guy, so so I can pull it up on my phone real quick and play through it a couple times. I'll get it down, but I can't do chart stuff because I played. When I was at OU, I played in jazz band there, and like they would give you like the chart, like the lead trumpet. Basically, it's the trumpet 2 part because that's the lead trumpet, and it would show you like where all the hits and stuff are because you definitely want to hit all the stuff like the swells and everything like that, the trumpet, the horns and everything hit. But for the most part, you just want to know where the end's at.
Yeah.
And so they would have drum charts, but they would be kind of useless, especially to me. Like, I grew up playing piano. Like, I took 12 years of classical piano, so I can read music. But I never read drum music. I never read drum charts because I took band in, like, 4th grade. That was it. Because then I was just like, I don't like that. It's just one drum. I like the drum set. So I never really got into, like, school band and stuff like that because it wasn't as fun as playing a drum set. I was like, one drum? That's not fun. Like, maybe a whole drum set. That's more fun than that. But that was the one thing that it was like, just follow the chart and you can do that. But the director was so good with how to keep the jazz band together that it was just, I would really just watch him and he would just give me all the cues.
That's cool.
But it was also really a challenge for me because I never had really played a lot of jazz. So a lot of that stuff's like super fast and like cut time and you're doing a lot of stuff that you're not used to. And like I'm used to like playing like the kick a lot and like the jazz drumming, you don't use the kick drum a lot. It's a lot for like accents. And so I had to get used to it. I was like, well, that's kind of weird. I'm just using my left foot a lot versus like what you'd be doing playing a lot of like 1s and 3s and stuff like that in the kick. You don't do that in jazz.
Yeah. So is like jazz sort of like your other genre that you're like, oh, here's like epic musicians, metal and like
that's true. That's so true. I mean, that's the two. I think genres that are like, I guess that and like math rock if you want to say too. But I guess math rock's like
almost metal.
Yeah, it's just not distorted metal. Pretty much what math rock is. It's just clean metal, except with like still the crazy drumming and stuff like that. And complex rhythms. But yeah, I mean, jazz drum, there's a lot of like, I mean, I guess Zeppelin's not jazz or metal band, but Bonham got a lot of stuff from jazz drummers like Buddy Rich and stuff like that. But I mean, there's a lot of metal drummers that take stuff from jazz guys because a lot of those guys back in the 20s and 30s, they'd use 2 kick drums. You're like, what? That's not like, and they like use the double kick thing, but it wasn't double kick. Then it was just like, it was just 2 separate kicks. It was like, what is going on? And that was kind of like a thing that that crept its way into metal. But yeah, I think that's why it's like I like metal so much because I can like. The screaming doesn't bother me, so I love listening to it.
Yeah.
I just also like really listening to like the musicality of it. It's just like, wow, that's really cool.
Yeah.
And like how like something that's in like 15/16 into like 9/8 ends up into 4/4 because they have to do a breakdown in 4/4. Because why would you do a breakdown in 9/8? You can't headbang in 9/8 because that's impossible. So they have to turn it around and end up back in the 4. And you're like, how did they just do that?
Yeah, it's really that's something that I've always appreciated with drummers is that you perceive rhythm another layer deep than the rest of the band, and so we might be thinking 8th notes or 16th notes, and you're in the 32nd notes, and that's something that. While I've wanted to play drums for a long time, like I know it's a hurdle there. I think the other one is just like the pocket.
I think a lot of people like don't realize how hard drums are, but I don't think about that because I just always like sit down and I can use every limb that way because I've just trained myself. It's always like, hey, if I'm going to use two pedals like double kick, might as well have my left foot do exactly what my right foot can do, and might as well have my left hand do exactly what my right hand can do. Because why not utilize all my limbs? If I have four of them, like if I have two sticks, then why not actually utilize 2 feet too on a kick drum? That's my always understanding too. It's like I don't understand why everyone doesn't like double kick because it's like why be restricted to that? That's the only drum you can only hit with one thing. Like one, like that's the only drum you can do. Like every other drum you can hit with two. What sticks or apparatuses, but whatever. What objects? Two objects.
I guess you can't double hi hat.
No, well, but you can do it with two hands. You can play the hi hat with 2 hands. You can't play the kick with 2 hands because that's impossible to get down there and hit the kick drum.
Like
you have to you have to reach around and do something. But
Who is your favorite drummer?
My favorite drummer, I said this when you had the band on last week. My favorite drummer is Matt Greiner from August Burns Red. He's been like my major influence on everything. My kit is kind of set up like his. Like I just like the way his kit's all. He does the 2 rack toms and then the 1 floor tom. Okay. And so I was like, yeah, I kind of like the way he like everything's nice and tight, and he has a lot of cymbals. Like he has 7 cymbals, but everything's really tight in on top of each other, and so I really like that idea. And then there's another drummer who's from the same town, from the band's from the same town, which they're not a band anymore, but they're called Texas in July, and that drummer is named Adam Gray, and I've met him and hung out with him. I hung out with him at a show for like 2 hours before, just me, him, and a buddy, and we just talked about drums and just life in general, and just this guy was really cool. And then we saw him again at another show, and still hung out with him, and the same thing like that. And he was the coolest guy, but that guy is just a technical freak. Like just the stuff he does on the kit, I'm just like how. Like I can't even fathom it. So I'm like, I'm not even gonna try that. Like because like the stuff he plays, like I've only tried to play like. I can only probably play like 3 or 4 of his songs, and then it's just like, what is that? But it's probably those two guys are just a huge influence on me, just because the way they play and the way I like how they make the kit so musical, and that's not a lot of you don't see a lot of drummers do that. Yeah.
Is there more to impressive drumming than just speed?
Oh yeah. There's speed is impressive to begin with, but if you have controlled speed, that's really the main thing you want to have. There's just stuff that I'm working with my drum instructor here, Matt Duckworth, who's the drummer of Flaming Lips. Yeah. He doesn't use a lot of double kick stuff, but he loves working on stuff with me because he's like I don't do a lot of that stuff, so it's cool to like think of like concepts and stuff. And he and I did like he and I've been working on like how to break down like 16ths into like feet and hands. So you do like 1E on the feet and then so it's like. So it's something like that. You're like, oh, that's a broken 16. That sounds so awesome. And like have like different variations how we do them. But then there's also like a speed drill that I've been working on somewhere else, and he like added like another layer to it. So it starts out, it goes 8s, triplets, 16ths, 30 seconds, 16ths, triplets, 8s. And you just keep going up and back down, up and down. And so that's a really, really good way to get the control down, because you're going from 8s, and you all the goal behind it's like, oh, I can do 8s and triplets with one hand. It's like, no, that's not the goal. The goal behind it is do bam, 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 like actually stroke out each thing with each. And so it's the same thing with the feet. So we'll do it with the feet, and it's really cool because you get up there, and it's the craziest thing is it's getting that triplet to the 16ths to the 30 seconds, and it's coming from the 30 seconds back down to the 16th. You're like, woo! And it's like fast, and that's all. That's all a control thing, but that's where the speed becomes control. It doesn't become speed anymore. And I think that's more important than like what people. That's another thing what people don't realize when they run into like, I want to play double kick. It's like, well, are your left foot and right foot completely different? It's like, what do you mean? It's like, well, can you keep quarter notes or eighth notes on rhythm on the hi-hat while you're playing a beat on the kick drum. It's like, what do you mean? Like, can you keep the time with your foot on your left foot doing something different from your right foot? They're like, well, no. It's like, well, then you'd have a real hard time playing double kick.
Right.
Because guess what? Your feet are doing different things.
What's the importance of gear when playing the drums? Like having the right drums, having the right cymbals.
So up at the school right now, like we have the band, we have to practice up here at the school because we don't have anywhere else to practice. So it's just like, well, what am I going to need? Well, I'm going to need my double pedals. And really, that's the only thing I really can bring up here to the school because they have everything else. But like, and that's too, like, we've played a show where it's like, hey, the back line, we're providing a drum set. It's okay, well, that's cool. I don't have to worry about bringing cymbals. It's like, well, I guess I should bring a cymbal stand with a china on it because not a lot of people put chinas on their drums. So I'm going to need a china cymbal and I'm going to need my double pedals. So that's the two essential things I need. But if I have my kit, it's game on because I use splashes and mini chinas and little like chinas, and I use a bell on top of my ride instead of the ride bell.
Well, what are you like most proud of on your kit that you're like, I will wail on that thing anytime, and even though everyone hates it, I love it.
I mean, China. I mean, nothing beats a good sound of China. But I mean, the double pedal too. Like there's a lot of stuff like I don't want to say I overuse it, but like I use it in a way that like you wouldn't think for like the Packing Pluto stuff, just because it's like I guess that's just like the way I hear the song and the way I want to like add drums to it. I'm just like, that would sound cool. And it's not like anything. It's like, oh, that's just heavy. It's just like, well, I think that just sounds cool because you don't hear that a lot. You don't hear double kicks on a lot of like non-metal music. And so that's the kind of like a thing that I like is like what we do. I guess we're prog rock. So it's like, I guess that like just the thing I like is just having a distinct sound to like to the drums. Like it's not like I'm overdoing it or overplaying it, but I just like having a really rock solid part. Pretty much like what John Bonham does was Led Zeppelin. Like it's just like what he does is crazy, but it fits so well.
Yeah.
It's just something where it's just like I always like to have like a part for the drums, not just like a backbeat that's boring.
Right. Can you tell the difference between like an expensive kit and not a?
I mean, it all depends on how you can tune the drums. Like, I don't really have that. Like, the most, like, expensive stuff in my kit's my cymbals. Like, that's mainly more important to me. Like, the cymbals, and I have two custom-made snares that, like, are my babies. And then other than that, like, everything else on my kit, I wouldn't say it's relatively cheap, but it's, like, not, like, the high-end gear. Like, my rack toms. Like, my toms for my drums are just, like, the Yamaha Stage Custom birch shells. Like, they're just, basic, like, they cost, I think the toms together, I just bought them individually. Together were, like, they each were, like, $150 a piece. And then the floor tom was, like, $250. So, like, they're not that expensive drums. But if you put the right heads on them and you know how to tune them, they sound great. And that's, like, the thing about me is, like, some people don't know how to tune drums. Because it'll drive me crazy, like, especially, like, coming up to the school. And this is all a preference thing too, but it will drive me crazy to come up at the school and like putting my pedals onto a kick drum, and it's just like nailing a brick wall, and you're like, how can you play a drum that tight? And so like, because I like basically being able to sink into the head and feel every stroke, because especially like when you're doing double kick stuff, if it's like hitting a brick wall, it's gonna hurt so bad. Like your legs are gonna hurt like shit. Like your shins are gonna be on fire because your legs, there's no give. So it's just no shock absorbent, nothing. It's just the reflex is right into your legs. And so I like being able, basically like playing into a pillow almost. I like to be able to just feel every punch because one, it feels good, and it doesn't hurt it doesn't hurt like it put any strain on my legs. It's not like, oh, it's coming, like the rebound. There's no rebound because you're just sinking right in, and that's what I like about it.
Yeah. Speaking of like having your legs be tired, I mean, out of the instruments in a contemporary band, you are doing the most work.
Oh yeah, I'll sweat the most. Like we played a show this past Friday down at Norman at Bison Witches. We played I think it was like a 2.5 hour set or something like that. And, after the first set, I was just wearing like a cutoff, like one of those, I think it was like one of those, the shirts they give out at the Thunder games, which are all like double XLs, like because they're just giant shirts. I just cut the sleeves off and was just wearing that because it was that nice that day. And I think like I got off stage and I was pulling my in-ears off behind my back and I was like, oh, they're kind of stuck to my shirt. And I was like, oh man, and like my shirt was just sopping wet. Yeah. And then we of course we played another set after that. And then I got back up here to the city. And I just took my shirt off. I was just like, oh, that's great. Like, just soaking wet. I was like, yeah, man. Like, no one sweats like a drummer, especially like if you're playing like stuff I do, like like using all of your limbs and stuff like that. Like, it's a good workout though. Like, it's not like it doesn't exhaust me. It's just like I know I'm gonna sweat and have a good time. So it's really just, and it's a good high. Like I guess no one really, if you're not a musician, you don't understand like that music, like that high you get off playing shows. It's just like it's such a great high.
And I also think that drummers have the most fun.
Yeah, they do. That's the saying. It's guitarists get the girls, but drummers have the most fun, which is true. Like for the most part, like that is true. But like no one. Yeah, I have the best seat in the house too because I can see everything. Like that's what I like about it too. It's like I can always see the crazy stuff going on.
Yeah. Hearing damage.
Yeah, that's the good thing though. In-ears are great.
Have you dealt with much hearing damage?
No, I have not. I've been very, very aware of needing my ears for this business, so it's kind of very useful to have your ears. So I think once I got to ACM, I knew, like a lot of guys were like, hey, play with click track, stuff like that. And I was like, yeah, I've always wanted to get a click track, but I never bought one because I wasn't playing in a band, so why do you need a click track if you're not playing in a band?
Sure.
So I think I bought a click track, and then I bought some in-ears. I bought like the Shure SE 535 in-ears that cut like 40 decibels. I was like, oh, that's nice. Ooh. And also, like, the nice thing about it, it's like they're great drumming headphones because I can just put them on and it's pretty much, instead of like putting like the regular like iPhone earbuds that I would use before and just cranking the volume on my phone and just playing because you'd have to have it louder because the cymbals and everything bleed through your headphones. It was nice to be able to just have the in-ears in and like, it's like, oh, I can put my music at a regular volume, like I'd be listening to it on an airplane or something, and I can play drums to it. So that was another thing that's like, those were really essential things for me to have because like, well, one, click track's great. Like, other than like, you can buy like those on your phone, but like having actually like a physical click track's great. And then in-ears, those are bad. Those save my hearing. Yeah, so much.
What advice do you have for someone who's starting to play the drums?
Man, that's a great question because I've always been not terrified, but like I would be like, I don't know how I would teach somebody how to play the drums because what worked for me probably wouldn't work for you. And I guess the thing is just like, don't get discouraged when you can't figure something out. Like I have not a short temper, but like there's something that's like I'll get really frustrated. It's like I can't figure this beat out, and I've been working on it like 20 minutes. Like, well, sometimes you're gonna have to take 20 hours to figure out that beat. You don't know. Like sometimes it takes me a day to just figure out one pattern that I've wanted to do it, especially and it's really just discipline and like how hard do you want to work on this? Yeah, and that's like the tough thing for me. I've never thought about music, I guess, like I've never counted wise. So it's like for me, like that's something I still have to work on for myself is playing and oh, this hit's coming on the end of 3. I got to get it ready for this. I got to count. I actually be counting in my head. And it helps when you have a click because you can actually hear, you're like, okay, well, that's 1, 2, 3. Okay, there it is. Like, and figure out where it's at. That's still something that I struggle with and work on because that's not something that I'm used to doing. And it's kind of out of my comfort zone. So it's something that I know I need, that I have to have more work on. That is like being able to not count while I'm playing, but I guess like be more conscious of where I'm at, like where, like be like, okay, like how to, how to like dictate something out to somebody, because someone's asked me like, like when I've played like a breakdown or like a rhythm, or it's like, how'd you do that? I'm like, ooh, like I can't tell you how I played it, because I'm like, ooh, I just did it, man. Like, and so that's something that like I know I need to work on as a a drummer, like better way to communicate and like actually be like, oh, I did, this is like a pattern, like this was kind of like this polyrhythm, or it was a character, an ostinato or something like that, versus being like, I don't know, I just did it, because that's a part like that I kind of run into, where it's like I did this and like I know it sounds cool and I know how it works, but it's like I can't tell you how I can't explain it to you. So I think that's the thing that I think I would struggle with, like if I was teaching somebody drums, because I would be like, you can't figure that out. Well, come on, man, get it, like, because because that's the way I did it. So like I wouldn't know how to. I don't think I would have enough patience for that to teach somebody else. Like that's what I always feel like. But I mean, who knows? I probably could if I like put my mind to it. I could, but. Yeah, that's what the advice I would give to somebody is just don't get discouraged when you can't figure something out, because I know it sucks. Like it's really frustrating. You're like, oh, I should be better than this. Why can't I figure it out this fast? I can't. Like this is really frustrating. But no, like you're gonna struggle with stuff, and guess what? If the stuff you struggle with, it's gonna be so rewarding when you finally can do it. Right. Because it's like, wow, it's like, wow, I'm not exercising demons, but it's kind of like, oh, I got the monkey off my back, or it's kind of like, wow, I did something that I didn't think I could be, I could do. So it's kind of like a thing. It's like, wow, it's a good benchmark, or like a way to make yourself proud, because it's like, look, I didn't believe that I could do that, and look, I'm doing it now. So and I've thought about that a lot of things. Like when I was learning like how to play like specific patterns and beats like that, I was like, oh, I'll never get this, and get mad and stuff. And then like the light bulb clicks, or you're just like, you played it out, you're like, oh, that makes sense. Yeah. And you're like, oh my God, I'm so glad I figured that out, because that's such a good tool to have in my kit. Like, so it's very rewarding to be able to like actually figure it out once you do it. So just don't get discouraged when you run into a problem.
Awesome. You also play keyboard and go on the other side with the piano.
Yeah, I do play piano. Yeah, I grew up playing. Both my parents played piano. My dad actually sang in a boys choir. Like he was a professional singer as a kid, and he has perfect pitch, so it's really annoying, because it's like you play something, it's like, that's not a C, or you sing something, it's like, why can't you hit that? And so it was always really hard to like be singing with him or singing next to him, because he's such a good singer and he has that good of an ear where it's like you're off, and like he can tell you're off when you're like, no, I'm not. It's like, no, you're flat, or like, no, you're sharp. It's like, how do you know that? But it's like his ear's so good, so he can't. Like, he can read music that way, but he plays more like his crazy. Like, it's like, hey, Dad, can you learn this song? And you'll play it for him. He'll pick it out, and, like, 2 minutes later, he has the whole song figured out. Like, oh, come on, really? And so that's what's really cool. And my mom, she took, like, classical piano lessons growing up. And she always, when I was a kid, I mean, still to this day, when I go home, she'll still have music books open. She'll just be playing songs because she just enjoys playing piano. Yeah. And so they made me and my older sister take piano lessons growing up, and I never liked it. One, because it wasn't the drums, and I just hated playing like classical music. When I was a kid, I didn't really understand why I hated it. I just hated the idea of someone telling me something to do too. Exactly. And so I didn't like the piano lessons and stuff, and I didn't like the crazy thing that what I could do is I got the being able to hear. I got that from my dad. So like what my piano teacher would do, what she would be like, she'd be sitting like on the upper octave of the piano bench, but she was like, oh, here's this part, and she'd play it out on the piano. I'm like, oh, that's how that goes. I was like, can you play the rest of that for me? And she'd play it. So then when I got home, I knew how it sounded, so I knew how to play it. So I was still reading the music, but I was also utilizing what she gave me, because I was like, wait, I know what's right now because I heard it. And so she would get mad when I would do stuff like that. I was like, what? I'm learning the song. I was like, and I have to memorize it to begin with, so why are you getting mad? And so I never understood why she was like, but you're not reading music. And I was like, no, I am. But this is just helps a whole hell of a lot more than what I'm doing. Like, it makes it that much faster. And I guess she couldn't understand that because she couldn't do that. And so I clashed my piano teacher a lot about that stuff. But I would do, like, the stuff we do, like, I would go to, like, all those competitions, like the sonata competitions and, like, I can't remember, like, we would have like a fall competition, a spring competition, a summer competition. Like all those, you'd have to go and take a theory test too. So I always was good at music theory too, because I had to learn all that. And then man, when I got to OU, that kicked my ass. That music theory is on crack. And I was like, yeah, I didn't go this far in my music theory stuff. Like, we didn't do all this, like, all these crazy complex sevenths and all this, like, stuff listening for this. Like, no, didn't do this.
Right. Oh, extended chords and then set theory, 12-tone.
Yeah, we were doing 12-tone stuff, and we did, like, I can't even think of the name. What is it? Where you have to like transcribe stuff out. I can't.
Oral skills?
No, not oral skills, but it's like a type of counterpoint. We had to do counterpoint and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like that was like the second week of theory, and I was like, oh, what about the grand staff and like the key scale? I was like, oh no, you guys learned that last week. I was like, oh, the first week of class we learned the key scale. Okay, this is gonna be a fun class. Yeah. Like, woo! Like, you thought that was gonna be the whole semester. You'd learn like all the different keys. So you're like, oh no, that was last week's stuff. You're like, oh,
yeah, everything stacks.
Ooh, that's rough.
What was the hardest thing that you had to play on piano?
Oh man, the hardest thing I had to play on piano was I think it was I'd say it's my sophomore year. It had to be a sonata. Or maybe it was like a sonatina in C or something like. I know it was a Beethoven song, and I couldn't get it like for the there was this middle part that kept tripping me up because it was the left hand was moving in a scale, which was just a scale, but it was doing it in 30-second notes going back and forth, and so you're having to do that with the left hand, and you were pounding out 16th chords with your right hand, and it was just like woo, like, and so that was one. I can't remember what the song was, but I remember that being the toughest part. I couldn't get forever, and I remember there was times that I would get like like my parents had a baby grand Yamaha in the living room we'd practice piano on, and man, I would get mad and just like slam my hands on the keys and just I couldn't figure it out, and that was really frustrating when like stuff like that, because it was just like, and like when you do that on the drums, like guess what, you can just go around and hit a fill and hit some cymbals and take some frustration off. What do you do on the piano when you can't get I would just like slam my hands like, ooh, you shouldn't be doing this on a grand piano, but not thinking, I'd be like, god damn it, just like slam my hand, like just being pissed because I couldn't get a part down. But I remember like that was the hardest thing for me was getting that part of that song. I can't remember what exactly the song was, but I know I think it was some sonatina or some sonata in C or something like that.
I think
I can't remember what.
I think Pathétique might be.
But I can't. It may not even been a Beethoven. I can't remember. That was so long. I can't remember. And that's the one thing that I kind of, I guess it's not a regret, but the one thing I guess I'm mad about piano. It's like, we were taught to memorize all those songs, and after them, I can't remember them. Like, I go back and I wish I could play all that stuff, but I'm like, I memorized all that, and once I was done with the competition or whatever, I didn't play it again. Yeah. And so I would never, and so that was the one thing that kind of, was frustrating. I was like, man, I wish I would have learned more than just learning how to, basically what they make you do in school, basically. It's like, learn all this, regurgitate it, forget it. Right, pretty much like the same thing. It's just like, well, that's kind of useless. Because I can't even play these anymore.
Yeah. Do you still play piano?
Oh yeah, I play piano. Like that's how I write all of the songs I write, especially when I'm writing stuff for PFP or just in general writing my own stuff. That's how I write. I can't play guitar, so I play piano, and that's kind of like the best way for me to how to dictate stuff out and chord wise to work with stuff. I enjoy writing stuff on piano.
Yeah. How has your drum playing affected your piano playing and vice versa?
Well, I mean, both of them are, contrary to what some people believe, both of them are percussion instruments. Some people will say, no, a piano's a string instrument. No, guess what? Mallets, when you hit the keys, mallets are striking the strings. Yeah. It's a percussion instrument. It's a percussion instrument. But I think, a lot of it, as far as my playing, my piano teacher would always say I would play so percussively because I was used to actually actually
things.
Hitting things actually quarters actually making them because she would always say you have a really heavy hand, but it's I was just so used to actually dictating rhythm stuff out, then it was just so easy to press down the keys. But I think a lot of being able to do I've been playing a lot. recently, like writing stuff, I've been messing a lot with like seconds and ninths and stuff like that because I like the way. I mean, seconds are basically seconds are sevenths. I like playing a second better than the way like a seventh sounds because you can move and do like the. Like take like a G chord, you can do like G A B and have like just hold like a G. It could even be a G minor if you want to, but like it sounds really cool with that A in there. And so like I've been messing around with like writing with like a song with just like C second to G second to A second to F second. So like something like just having all seconds in it because I like the way seconds sound, and that's something that I've been messing with recently and doing like triplets and stuff like that with like how to like doing like like doing making the left hand like a a moving bass line or something like that, left hand like moving like triplets or something like that. And that's something that's like I've kind of not like transferred to the kit, but like I've been trying to like make myself play like more like experiment more with like triplets and stuff like that because they're kind of cool.
Yeah. Is there like a melodic way of playing drums in a way?
I mean, I guess it depends on the genre. I mean, I guess like pop drums you could call it that. I don't know. Like, I mean, it really. I guess like whatever. I don't even know who it, like. I can't even tell you a renowned pop drummer, but like whoever. I guess like Taylor Swift's drummer. Like I guess like he would play. Like in the pocket and stuff like he's not going to be doing like a lot of crazy like fills and like stick tricks and like all like tossing sticks up and stuff because guess what, they're there to see Taylor Swift, not the drummer,
right?
But I guess like playing for pop, I guess you could say like you're playing like really like melodic and like really like conform to like what you're doing. Like don't go off the beaten path. Like you're playing 4 on the floor. You're just playing like this basic backbeat.
Right. And at this point, Taylor Swift's drummer is probably just a drum machine. So
well, yeah, now yeah. I don't know what she's doing now. Like, I don't know what happened to the Tim McGraw Taylor.
Well, she said so. She's dead.
I guess so. I mean, yeah.
But how has your experience? I mean, you grew up with music and being in a musical family. How has that sort of shaped going into music school, and how is that different from just like learning from your family or getting private lessons and then going into like a school setting?
Oh, right. I think like. I don't know, I've always been around music, so I've always wanted to do it. Like, there wasn't anything else, like, growing up that, like, really, like, I gravitated more than to, like, the drums. Like, that was basically, like, my first love was, like, playing drums. Because that was something that I was, like, so naturally good at. Like, I don't know how it happened. My mom said, like, I was 2 years old, I would just be banging on stuff, and I would be in rhythm. It wouldn't just be, like, random, like, hitting and tapping. Like, I would be on rhythm, and I would always, like, bang along, like, to songs and stuff on rhythm. And so, like, that's one of the reasons they said they bought me a drum kit. They're like, well, if he's going to just keep hitting stuff, might as well just get him, like, an actual thing he can hit. Like, but... yeah, that's the kind of that's the thing that like I don't know, like I've been around music my whole life, so it would be weird not to like imagine myself not going into music. Like I tried to like when like I was a senior in high school, like I was planning on going to like this school out in LA that's basically what ACM does, but it was in LA, and like I got in and I was gonna go. And I wasn't going to go for drums. I was going to go for voice.
Okay.
And so then my parents were like, well, we really don't want you to move out to L.A. by yourself at 18. And I was like, okay, I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, they'll eat you.
Right. Well, I mean, I can understand from, like, coming from, like, a parent's perspective, like, oh, we don't want you, like, especially coming from, like, a rural town in Oklahoma, like, riding to L.A. Like, yeah, it'd be kind of weird. So, like, I can understand, like, they're like, wait, why don't you go to college and get, like, a 4-year degree, then you can move out there or something like that. Like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. And so I went to college, and I had no idea what I wanted to do because I always wanted to do music. Like, I always knew I wanted to play drums in a band, and I wanted to be a music producer of some sort. Like, I always wanted to do that. And so I got to college, and I'm like, what the fuck am I doing here?
Right.
But, like, I'm like, okay, I'm just going to have a good time then. I think, like, when I got into school, I hated it. Like, I hated going to class, and I changed it like a week afterwards, like right when you could change the deadline. I completely changed my major, but I was a business, business marketing
Mm.
and accounting class. I was like, no, thank you. Like after the first week, I was like, this is not fun. And I had like macroeconomics or something like that.
Mm.
And I hated that class too. I was like, this is not fun. Why am I doing this?
Yeah.
And so I switched to like a classical music degree just to do, I was like, at least I'm singing in choir and doing something, like at least something that I enjoy doing. And then I was going to East Central at the time, and then I transferred to OU and was doing the same classical music thing. And that just burned me out. And so I was just trying to like find something to do. Because I always was like, hey, I've always wanted to play. Like I was like, my whole life, I always wanted to be in a band, wanted to tour, wanted to do like that's like been the dream. And so I was like I was really unhappy at the time because I was going to OU and I wasn't following like my dreams. So then I found ACM. And it was kind of like, oh, lights back on. I know what, I know what, like, oh, okay, cool. Let's chase this dream now because actually now I have the foundation to do it now other than like trying to like find some, like I couldn't find anybody to play with either, like at school or anywhere. Like no one played guitar, and so it was like really frustrating. I was like, I guess I just keep playing metal music on my drums. Like that's all I'm just kept practicing and all that stuff. So like that's always what I want to do is music because I've always been around it my whole life. So I don't think I can, like I said, I've tried doing the other thing and it wasn't fun. So like I know now like I want to do like I don't really care, like just something in the music industry. And like I know like if I work hard and stuff, like I will actually achieve that dream of like touring like I want to. Like I know like that's definitely like not that's definitely like not an impossible dream now. I know that, so that's actually cool.
Yeah. Did your parents have a problem with
No, they've always been, that's what I really like.
They've always been
supportive of everything I've done. So that's really like I'm glad I actually have like parents like that. Other than like I know, man, this like broke my heart the other day. We were playing a punk show up in Tulsa. We were so out of place at it, but we were playing this punk show, and the band before us was playing, and I was like, I kept seeing you guys were swapping out drummers. I was like, what's the story of that? He's like, yeah, well, our drummer, his mom told him he couldn't play drums in a band because music would get him nowhere. And I was like, oh, did he punch his mom in the face? Like I was just like, well, wow, she's a bitch. Like I couldn't, like, man, that would suck. I was like, man, like that's terrible parenting. Like, but I was just like, I couldn't imagine if my parents were like, no, that's not gonna get you anywhere. Like they're like, no, like you want to do that, go do it. Like that's what like I'm so glad I have parents that are supportive of like that, because like once he said that I was like, man, that must like that's terrible parent, like that's a terrible parent, like why would you tell your kid that, like no, sorry, you can't be like, you can't do that, like what, okay.
I would almost even like trust it more coming from your parents who are both musicians. It's like, hey, no, really, you probably shouldn't do music, and it's like, dang, they know.
Right. I mean like, and like I know I'm aware, like you can't. I mean, we talked about this on when you had the band on last episode about like there's not a lot of glitz and glamour to it. Like just like, oh, what'd you make tonight at the bar? Like, oh, I made 280. Woo, 280, man, that sounds pretty good. And it's like, wait, there's 5 of us.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like, so it's like really like, man, you gotta like it's you gotta be willing to be on the struggle bus a while to be successful. Like this is not for the weak at heart. Like,
yeah. And, I mean, we do a lot of work. We rehearse for hours to play a show that's going to have to be divided up 4 ways, 5 ways.
Yeah, and then in front of maybe 15 people, too, And, like, and that's, like, the other thing. It's, like, I've run into, like, working with people where they're, like, so negative. It's, like, no one's going to show up. It's, like, okay, man, who cares? I don't care. 5 people here or 500. I'm going to play the same way.
Yeah.
And I'm going to perform the same way. So I don't give a damn if 5 people are here, man. Guess what? That's not 0. And guess what? I'll still have a good time. Like, you can't be negative about it because guess what? You'll just drive yourself insane.
Right.
And that's why, like, and you're not going to ever be happy if you're always negative about stuff, especially in, like, this industry, man. Like, you can't be negative about stuff because it'll eat that alone will eat you alive before the industry does, because you'll drive yourself insane.
You set up a good segue for me to go into the other half of the podcast, which is talking about spirituality and stuff, talk about being positive or, looking forward to stuff. But my question to start is, what is the role of spirituality or religion in your life?
That's a good question. I don't know, like, I grew up like going to church and stuff like that, but like I don't know, like I've tried, like I kind of want to like. I'm not saying like I'm on a path to figure out what I want to believe, but like I really want to like learn for myself like what I believe, like and what like because like what I've noticed, especially like not going to church for the last 4 years, like not being home, so I've been going to church and like looking at it from the outside, looking in. Man, some of that stuff sounds crazy, and it's just like and like the insane fact where it's like. You can be a Methodist, you can be Baptist, you can be like all this. It's like, well, why do you have all these different like denominations if you guys believe in the same God? And but like, no, we don't. It's like it's like really? You guys don't even know what you believe. And that's the other thing too. It's like I'll run into people and I know more about the Bible than they do, and they say they're a Christian. It's like, but do you know it says this? It's like, what? Well, no, it's because I believe. It's like, no, you pick and choose what you want to believe. That's the other thing, too, that drives me crazy about, like, it's like they pick and choose what they want to believe from the Bible. So they don't even, like, and so for me, it was just really frustrating. I was just like, this is not even, like, I don't even enjoy this. Like, I don't even get the, you know, not the gist behind it, but I'm just like, it's not for me, I guess. Like, I don't know. Like, I know how to be positive and stay positive about stuff in my life. And, like, I've never felt like the fact, like I've never felt like it's like an answered prayer. Like I've been like praying, like, oh God, do this. Like I've never felt like oh, here's an answer, like something. Like I've never felt any of that in my life before. So like when I stopped, I guess like praying all the time, like I never noticed a difference because I was like, oh, I'm always supposed to do this, and then I'm like kind of like not like fit, like I guess like just trying to like make my mind up on my own. Like I've been like I don't feel any different. And it's not like I'm not trying to like knock anybody for like believing in anything because that's all on you. And that's what I think. Like I think a lot of another thing that like, drives me crazy is like extremists, like people like I don't care if you're like an atheist or anything like that, but like Bill Maher drives me insane because like he calls people out. They're like, you're an idiot because you believe that. It's like, really, man? Like you can't just be respectful of other people's beliefs. Like you can be an atheist or you can be that. Just don't be an asshole about it. Like don't be an like because there's plenty of people that like Christians do that too. It's like they're like gonna shove it down your throat. It's like, no, man, don't do that because that's not cool. Like and I don't think that's really what you're supposed to be doing with that religion. You're not supposed to be shoving it down other people's throats. Like you don't even think you understand what you believe. Yeah. And so that's the kind of like frustrating thing to me. It's like. I've run into people who are a whole hell of a lot nicer that don't believe in anything versus like a Christian. And so it's all like, I don't know. It's like, and like I said, I'm still not trying to knock it, but it's just like, for me, it's just like looking at it from the outside in, like outside looking in, it's just like, man, like all of this is like, it's too scripted almost.
And I always want to clarify for you because like everything that I ask the guests is like their belief. So you can say whatever you want, and it's just it's you. And if someone disagrees wholeheartedly, that's up to them. This is you. So what denomination did you grow up in, and how did that sort of like
Presbyterian church? So that was kind of cool. Like Presbyterian is like kind of thing. It's like and like. Presbyterian churches like was one of the first denominations that let gay preachers in. Cool. So they've always been like the progressive like type of like church. But I grew and like all the people there were cool and stuff in my church like that. But I guess like my parents would always drag me like this thing that was like this TV evangelist would do. And my sister actually went to school at Oral Roberts in Tulsa, and she and I have like a lot of conversation about like theology and stuff because when she went to that school she had to take theology classes and stuff, and she was talking about like when we would go to like listen to like these TV evangelists, like what they talk about is nothing like what she learned in like theology and like stuff like that, like what they taught her at that school, like what they're actually teaching, like theology is actually like what you're supposed to be learning, what versus what like Christians choose to like pick and believe, which is like always what comes back to like aggravating me. It's like, why do you choose like pick and choose what you want to believe from the Bible when you think the Bible's all right? Because there's people that's like, oh, you can't get your tattoos are against God, all this stuff. It's like, okay, well then so is cutting your hair, because guess what? In that same chapter of Leviticus where it says don't mark yourself, it says don't cut your hair. So why isn't your hair like way down by your feet, bro?
Yeah.
Like
Exactly.
it says don't groom yourself. So why are you groomed then? Come on, tell me that. Like it also says don't eat shellfish, don't eat pork, don't eat like.
Right.
Tell me why you're eating that piece of bacon right there. Like.
Yeah. So then, did you transition out, or did you just like not go?
I went to East Central, we would always go. I wouldn't go every Sunday, but like the group of my friends, we would just go like walk up to this, like it was called like the Trinity Baptist Church in Ada, and we would go to it because they had like this thing for like college students and like a coffee shop and stuff. So we'd always go, and then I think I just like. I had friends and stuff, and we were just talking about stuff, and I just, not that, like, I fell out of it, but I think it's just kind of, like, I kept, like, seeing, like, holes in it, especially for me, like, and like I said, this is just my beliefs,
right.
Like, this is just, for me, what happened to me, and I saw, like, just being, like, I was like, that, like, doesn't make sense, because I would be, like, and just thinking about stuff, like, someone would be, like, oh, I didn't pass that test. I guess that was God's will. And I was like, the fuck does that mean? Like, God's will made you... No. Like, you would think that, like, I prayed and I passed that test. I guess he didn't answer that prayer. Like, motherfucker, you have to put the work in. You can't just be like, hey, God, I know I didn't study for this test, this exam that I have today, but I know you'll put the knowledge in my head so I can pass it. Oh, thanks. Like, no, it doesn't work that way, man. Like, that's what the other thing, too, would drive me crazy. It's like, people, it's like, oh, like, it must have been God's will. It's like, really, man? Must be God. Like, come on. Like, that's just, like, to me, it just sounds so cliche. Because I had a roommate that was, like, super into, like, religion, and he would do, like, a devotional every night. And then on top of that, he would listen to rap music, but it wouldn't be the edited version. It'd be, like, you know, they'd be saying fuck and shit and, like, and all that, and, like, dropping the N-word and stuff, and he'd be rapping along to it. He'd just edit himself and not cuss. And I'd be like, so you're going to do your devotional and then listen to them talking about blowing cocaine and banging women? Okay, that makes sense. Whatever, man. Like, it just didn't, like, I was like, why can't, like...
Did it ever work for you, or, like, even whenever you were younger, were you still kind of like, eh?
I don't know. Like, I was thinking about it the other day. I was like, there was a point where I was like, I thought it worked, but then I was like, maybe because I was just being a sheep and told that's what I was supposed to do. And then, like, looking back on it, I didn't really ever believe that. Like, that was just what everyone else was doing, so I thought that was the right thing. And, like, and so, like I said, like, I've never, once, like, I stopped going to church, and, like, once, like, I stopped praying all the time, which I thought I was supposed to do, like, I haven't felt a change in my life. I haven't felt any different. Like, I haven't felt, honestly, like, things have been, like, not better, but, like, things have been, like, I mean, not that sounds bad, but, like, things have been, like, not, like, it's also, I like having Sundays where it's, like, I can, especially, like, as a musician, like, especially when you play late at night, like 2 a.m, it's nice to wake up at 12:30 on a Sunday and be like, oh, guess what I'm going to do today? I don't know. What's Netflix binge? Like, you know, like, it's nice to not have anything to do on a Sunday. But I don't know, like, for me, it's just, not tedious, but it was just, like, once I stopped, like, I haven't noticed a difference. And so it was just kind of, I was like, man, I think I was just kind of, like, blindly following it and doing it, like, being a sheep, because I was told I had to, like, I was just like, this is what you have to do. So I was just blindly doing it, and I had no idea what I was doing. And so that's what I've kind of, like, come with the realization of. It was like, I was just, dumb. I was just a dumb kid. Like, I was told, like, that was what you do. So I just, followed suit. So I think that's kind of, like, me, like, also is, like, kind of getting to, kind of, like, also coming into college, like, that's where, like, people understand, like, that's where you mature a lot and, like, grow up and, like, find out a lot about yourself is in college. And so that was, like, the thing is, like, kind of, like, an awakening for me. It was, like, kind of taking the blinders off and realizing, I was like, man, there's so many different people in the world. Like, and I don't think you think about that, like, when you're in high school or, like, in middle school, like, you just realize, like, damn, there's so many different people in the world. How is, like, because I always, like, growing up, like, I always thought, like, being a Christian's the right way, being, like, and it's just, like, when you, like, realize how big the world is, and especially, like, how big, like, man, like, how crazy, like, especially, like, when I got into college, I got into, like, European soccer, and so, like, seeing, like, how, like, just, like, how, like, how big the world is, like, all those people, like, most of those people don't even speak English, and, like, that play in, like, European soccer, like, like, none of them, English is not their first language, and so, like, a lot of it, like, to me, was just kind of, like, a culture thing, too. I was like, man, there's, like, a lot out there more than just like people like America. Like it's like, man, that's not just us, and like it's not just God out there. Because guess what, Muslims, and that's what I love telling like people. It's like, guess what, Muslims believe in the same gods the Christians do. No, they don't. It's like, yes, they do. No, not my God. It's like, oh, come on. Like, really, man? Like, you don't even know any that. You don't even know about your faith. Like, that's the thing people, too. It's like, they try to, like, thump you over the head with the Bible, and, like, they have no idea what they're talking about. And it's like, hey, man, why are you thumping me over the head with the Bible when I don't believe any of that stuff? So you're just wasting your breath. It's like, well, the Bible says this. It's like, well, I don't live my life by the Bible, so sorry. Like, you're going to run into a lot of problems, especially, like, people, like, that make me mad. It's like, oh, the president has to be a Christian. Why? Why does it matter what he believes in? It's like, if whoever the president, if they're a good leader, they could believe that a brick wall created them, and whatever, like Humpty Dumpty farted and the world was created, or something like, they can think something crazy like that. I don't care if they have good qualities as a person and a leader and stuff like that. That's fine. Like, why should it matter what they believe in? It doesn't. It just makes you feel better about yourself, or feel better because it's like, oh, at least we got a Christian in the office. Like, why?
Because he's like you.
Yeah. Why? Like, why? Because you don't understand, like, other people's, that there's other people in the world too. That was the other thing too, is like, I kind of realized it's kind of like, man, there's so many people in the world. Like, why do you, like, how do you know that the Christian way is the right way? Like, you don't. That's the thing, like, I think that really, like, bothers me about that is, like, it's that way. Like, he's the way. It's like, what, really? Come on. Do you know that for sure? Have you talked to a dead person that's in heaven? Like, that's the other thing, too. It's like, I know they're in heaven. It's like, well, do you? Have you been? And, like, it's not, like, being a jerk. It's just kind of being, like, poking holes in their logic. It's kind of like, but why do you believe this? And they don't know. They can't tell you why. Because they don't know. They've just been told that their whole life. Right. And that was the thing that I didn't like. I was like, basically, they're just sheep.
I know you said you're still sort of, like, finding your way around your spirituality, but I always make it a point to ask these two questions. First, God, question mark?
Yeah, I believe that God created us. Like, so, like, I'm not like the Big Bang theorist or anything like that. Like, I believe that God created us, but I don't think it was the Christian God. Like, I definitely believe a higher being definitely like all this, like how complex we are as beings and how complex the world is and stuff like this. Like, some higher being, God had to create us, because it didn't just happen like the Big Bang Theory. Like, that's just, I've never been a fan of that, because I've always been like, something had to create us because of how, like, fine-tuned everything is. Like, someone had to. And so that's what I believe, but it's definitely not the Christian God.
Okay. So what is your definition of God?
I don't know. Like, I feel like he was like, hey, man, like, let's just create something. Boom, and then he's just like, all right, let's see what happens. Okay. Like, he doesn't have his hands on anything. Like, people want to believe it's like, oh, like, oh, God, like, gotta pray for your, like, pray that God will put the right politician in office. It's like, have you ever heard of separation of church and state? Like, none of that really adds up. Like, so, I don't know, like, yeah, God created us. Like, I mean, it's just because, to me, it's like, yeah, God had to create us. But I don't think it's definitely a Christian God, and I don't think it's a God that, like, has his hands on us. Like, we're not puppets or anything. I think it's just kind of like, he was like, let's make the Milky Way, like he is, like, and I believe there's so many other planets out there too that have life on it too. I'm not one of those people. It's like, oh, just Earth. Like, man, like, you know how big space is. Like, there has to be someone else out there living that haven't been able to reach us either because the technology's not there.
And then the other one is free will, question mark.
Like, is it good that we have free will?
No, do we have free will?
Yeah? I think we have free will. I'm pretty sure, like, to a certain, obviously to a certain extent by laws and stuff, but yeah, I think we have free will. Like, I mean, we're free to do, especially in America, where they say we're free to do as we choose, but, you know, it's not like in China. Like, I don't think there's a lot of bands in China because I don't think they let people play music in China.
Well, I think more a philosophical free will in that generally it's
no, I get you
determinism, or like everything that you do and choose is because of all of the things that came before it. Not necessarily fate. because that has
because
a different connotation. But things are determined because of the
your actions.
Yeah, your actions are causal.
I definitely
rather than
yeah.
free will, which is like you choose what you do.
You choose what you do,
yes.
but there's definitely consequences for your actions. Like, and it's pretty much goes back to what one of what is that, the Newton's theories, right? Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. That's kind of the thing. It's like everything you do it will have consequences are a thing. But I definitely think we have our free choice to make those and everything like that. It's not. I don't believe it's fated. Like, do you watch the show Vikings?
I don't.
Okay, so like they believe in like Thor and like Freya and like the gods like that. And they believe that their lives are fated. And so, and like, I was thinking about that, like, I was like, well, that'd be cool. Like, I mean, who knows if that's true or not? Like, who's to tell them that they were wrong about that? But, like, that's definitely, like, crazy way of thinking. Like, man, like, our lives are fated. Like, it's in the God's hands already. Like, the gods have already determined what we've done. It's like, whoa, that's crazy. And I think that goes back to where it's like, I guess, like, they don't have free will, but they do have free will. Like, I don't know. It's like, because, like, I definitely think, like, we're free to do as we choose because, hell, I mean, who's to tell us we can't? I mean, within laws and stuff like that. But also, like, spiritually, like, yeah, I think we definitely have free will to do whatever we want to believe in, whatever we want to feel, whatever. Like,
and then, how do you be a good person?
Oh, that's a good question. How do you be a good person? I guess you would have to know the definition of a good person because I mean I guess that's like differs from each person, right? I mean I guess that differs.
Well, what's your definition?
I mean I don't know, like just someone who like it's just someone who's friendly and not like negative about life and always like willing to help with something that's patient, or especially like when you have like a question with someone, they don't get frustrated. You're asking them questions or something like that. Like I don't know, it's just like person who's good, kind-hearted. Like everyone, I know everyone has their bad moments, but like someone who's just like an all like around like. I always like compare like I have a really good buddy who I was roommates with. He I guess this is like a nutshell of like a good guy would be. We were at a show. And he bumped into this guy's table and he knocked his beer off the thing and it shattered. And it was like a brand new beer. And he was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. He's like, what was that beer? And he was like, it was a Guinness. And like the dude was pissed. And he's like, I'll buy you a new one. And the guy was like, yeah, right, whatever. And so he disappeared and he came back with a Guinness. And that guy was like bad mouthing the entire time. And he brings the beer back to him. The guy was like, oh, man, I'm so sorry about all the stuff I was saying about you. Like, and that was like kind of like in a nutshell. Like that was like, to me, it's like that's someone who's like, they like, oh man, I'm so like, I messed up here. My bad. Let me fix this, and I will. Like that's to me, like that's like to me, like that's an example of like someone who's like that good of a person. It's like, like they realize they made a mistake, and like they're not like, oh, I'm sorry, like apologizing, like, oh, like I got this. I'm sorry. Let me go fix the problem. And he came back, and like even like that guy, was like just saying all this shit about him, and he's like a guy like didn't know what he was doing, like saying he was drunk and all this, and he brings the beer back to him, and he couldn't. He was like, oh, he had to bite his tongue because he was like, oh shit.
You talk about like being positive or not being negative. What's the importance of being a positive person, and are you like an optimist? In
I definitely say I'm an optimist. Like I just look at it as like a thing, like the way people are negative about with who the president is right now. Like I'm not going to get into political beliefs because I hate both parties, so I'm not going to get into political beliefs. But like I said, like the thing that bothers me is like people. It's like it's like, oh, it's coming from him, so they hate the idea of like because he's an idiot all around. It's like, can you even just like. Like, hey man, guess what? Like, you may hate the guy and you hate that he's president, but guess what? Like, if you're gonna keep being negative about it, you're just gonna be miserable the entire time he's in office, man. And you're gonna make yourself crazy, thinking every time he comes on your TV, you're like, I hate you, fuck you, man. Like, you're gonna drive yourself crazy because you're not gonna be ever happy about it. And like, I can't understand. It's like, yeah. A lot of stuff he's done is despicable and everything like that, but like, you can't even acknowledge like something, like one good thing. You can't just be like, yeah, that's a good. It's like, nope, not with him. It's like, okay, well then who's who's worse, you or him? Like, come on. Like if you're trying to be like saying you're a better person than he is because of all the stuff he's done, if you're being negative and keep treating him poorly, then why you're not even giving him a chance to try? And like I don't care. Like it doesn't bother me. I don't care. I didn't vote. I voted for Gary Johnson, so I knew my candidate was going to win. I just couldn't vote for either one of them because I didn't like either one of them. So I just don't get the point of like why like we did like people did that to Obama when he was in office. Like they did like kept being negative about it. It's like we're not going to get anywhere if we can't come together, man. Like you may not agree that like at all like what he stands for and anything, but guess what? If we don't come together as Americans, we don't come together as a people, then we're doomed anyway. Like, and that's what I don't understand. It's like, why can't you still have a positive outlook on stuff and like being able to like, no, it's like, oh, he's being stubborn. It's like, oh, let's not make him stubborn. Let's actually go do stuff. Like talk to him, like do stuff. Like, let's find a way. Let's not just be negative and act the same way. Like, there's no reason to act ugly to ugly people. Like, that's not how you win.
Yeah.
And so like, that's what I just don't understand. It's like, you're going to keep yourself unhappy the entire time he's in office if you're going to be negative about it the whole time.
Yeah.
How do you don't understand that? Like, I don't know why you would want to do that.
How do you embrace positivity in your own life?
I think it just comes down to like what happens in a day, like what kind of like in a nutshell, kind of like what adversities you face of the day. Can really dictate like how your day goes and how like you respond to stuff because I'm just a real like I always try to be positive just because for me like I'll be happier. Like I don't like I'm not very good with showing emotions, but like if I'm just sitting there like I'm not like it's like, oh, you look grumpy or sad. It's like, no, I'm just hanging out. Like, I'm fine. Like, I'm just like, I don't smile a lot, so I'm not gonna show emotion because I don't smile a lot.
Right.
But I'm all like, I'm really, I like being able to start like, I guess I'm not, is it punctual is not the word, but like, I guess I'm very routine. Like, I like to be able to start my day the same way every morning because I live by myself. So like, I like to be able to like start my day the same way every morning. That way, like I'm in the routine of like, I know I'm going to have like a good positive day. So like I always wake up and make coffee or make a smoothie or something like breakfast or whatever. And there's a radio show that I listen to out of Miami that comes on at 8 o'clock in the morning, 9 o'clock there. And so I have a radio app that you can listen to like all these radio stations around, TuneIn app.
Cool.
The TuneIn app, you can listen to like all these different radio stations around America. So I'll listen to the radio show that starts at 8 in the morning. And so I'll just wake up like 7:30, make breakfast or make coffee or something like that. And like I'll, read the news and listen to that radio show. And that's my routine every morning because that's the way like, I know how to start off a positive day because it's a funny radio show. Like they're a sports radio show, but they don't talk about sports. Like there's pop culture, so they talk about like just funny stuff, and there's just goofy guys, and so it's just a good way to like start my day. It's just kind of like this is a good like just laugh, like being able to laugh and start your day off that way. Like because I always try to like because I know I'm gonna have a good day if I'm listening to like start my day off listening to that radio show, and I try not to like read any like discouraging news or anything either because I hate the news anyway because only good news is bad news. So like I'll try to like, and when I do read news, like it's stuff like let me open up BBC and see what's happening because I'm not reading anything from here. Like no thank you.
Last question I have. I asked you for advice for like starting drummers, but now it's just advice in general. What advice do you have for people?
Don't be a dick. I know like there's times like when I'm a dick, but like don't be a dick because you don't know what someone else is going through during a day. Like you could walk up to somebody and just not doing it, like just I guess unconsciously, right? Or not thinking why doing it and just be not negative, but just give like a bad vibe off to somebody and you have no idea what that person had gone through that. Like that morning that like they may have just got like divorce papers. They may like like something crazy like that, or they had car trouble and they had to walk to school, or, like and like saying like some like snark comment like oh look at you, like something like that. Like you never know, and that could be like the last thing that set that person off. Like like maybe they had no sleep the night before and they're like stressed as fuck out, and like you say something mean to them or it's just being a dick. Like I don't know. Like I always try to think about it's like. Man, I know when I'm having a bad day, I would like someone to, like, at least be like, hey man, how are you? How are things going? Like even that would just kind of like cheer me up.
Yeah.
So like I always try to remember it's like there's other people in the world besides me, besides yourself.
Yeah.
Like the world does not revolve around you at all. And I think that's also something you learn as you grow up too, is like, hey man, like it's not about you. Like as much as like self-centered you are as a kid or something like that, and like how like your awareness to other people is not there as a kid, man, like once you like, and I think that's like the difference from like an 18-year-old to like a 21-year-old, especially like someone who's coming into college versus like someone who's about to leave college. Like you learn a lot about, like you mature a lot in college, and so it's like it's just something that's like trying to be. I know, like if I like give advice to like if I could give advice to my 18-year-old self, I go kick his ass, about some stuff, because like it's just like you were an idiot, like you thought you knew everything and you don't. Like, it's just like always be positive, man, because you never know who you're gonna run into, and you never know who that person could be either. If you're a jerk to them, they could, so never, always try to stay positive and try to always cheer somebody up, because you'll need that one day.
Yeah, I like that. Thank you for doing this with me.
Oh, this is fun. This is a blast.
Honestly, like I wasn't expecting how much like you would talk.
Oh, right.
This is fun. Where can we find you and your things? Plug some stuff.
I really don't have. The only thing I have is a Twitter. I guess it's my Twitter handle is Who's Henry Alex. But you can find all of the band that I'm in, Packing for Pluto. We have a website, packingforplutomusic.com, and we have all social media. We have Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and that's just all at Packing for Pluto. Cool. So that's where you can find me. I run the band's Instagram page, so that's secretly my account, but that's the band's account. But I'm the one posting the stuff off of it. Yeah. So.
You also get the best views, so...
Yeah. I'll do the Instagram stories from shows because it's behind the kit, so...
Yeah. Well, cool. Thank you for doing this with me. I'm Santiago Ramones.
I'm Alex Henry.
You can find all the stuff that I do on my website, santiagoramones.com. I make music. I'm not familiar with the date. I haven't done the math to figure out what day this will go up. But I'm doing Metro Music Fest on April 6th. And you guys probably
we are too.
Yeah,
we already got our stage too.
Yeah. Where y'all at?
Tapwork stage.
Cool.
5 to 5:50.
Nice. I'm at Sonic Water stage, 6 to 6:40.
Oh, hell yeah.
So that should be fun, and maybe it will have happened already, but thanks for coming. I also do this podcast. You can find it on my website. You can leave comments on the podcast on the website. You can leave comments if you watch it on YouTube. You can leave reviews on iTunes or on Apple Podcasts through the podcast app. Let me know what you think, and I always end the podcast with my 3 things. They shape my life philosophy. Those 3 things are: love never fails, it's going to be okay, I might be wrong.